Good afternoon. The August 16th, 2011 meeting of the Oklahoma City Water Utilities Trust will be in order. First matter on the agenda is the approval of the meeting of August the 2nd.
Approval. Second.
Motion and a second to approve the minutes of the meeting of August the 2nd. Are there comments or questions? Hearing none, voting please. Minutes are approved. The next item is a consent docket. Several items on the...
Move approval subject to individual consideration.
Do you have a second?
Second.
I have a motion and a second to approve the consent docket. Are there matters to be considered separately? Hearing none, voting please. Consent docket's approved. Next item, item 4, is a concurrence docket. One item.
Move approval.
Motion and a second to approve the concurrence docket. Is there comments on the one item that's on the docket? Hearing none, voting please. Concurrent docket is approved. Next item is a report, and we have a status report from the Utilities Department for July.
Move we receive the report.
A motion and a second to receive the reports. Are there comments on the report?
Mr. Chairman, I have a question. On the lake levels, Lake Hefner, there's been some comments in the newspaper and other media sources about that lake level being down. How does the current elevation compare to, say, our worst case that we've got on record? Are we ahead of that or below that? Is this a new record in terms of?
No, it isn't a new record. We were at 11. We were about 3 or 4 feet lower in the drought of 2006. I'll ask Mr. Couch whether he remembers.
Oh, I remember being down 12 or 13 feet, yeah, and sometimes in the late 80s, maybe early 90s. I know in particular when they were doing the construction on the Lake Hefner Parkway, it was down maybe even as many as 14 feet at that point in time for a short period of time. Yeah, you know, it's had some periods.
I mean, the boat club rebuilt all their docks when that lake was down at that level. And the first year I had a sailboat, 1980, the lake got pretty shallow in places because I spent most of my time pushing my boat over the mud. But anyway, I wanted to sort of just make a point that this is not the worst case we've had before. And despite people being unhappy with the lake level, it has been worse, and we're doing well to manage that.
And then, Marcia, can you comment on your meeting, was it yesterday with Canton?
I will. The Canton Lake Advisory Committee met yesterday to discuss the possible withdrawal of water from Lake Canton. Today, in terms of operation, we're particularly concerned about Lake Overholser, which is down 8 or 9 feet, but is approaching its minimum that we can treat water at. We have a couple more feet left to go. So Lake Overholser has actually been a focus for us. The issue is how to bring water down the North Canadian River when it's dry as a bone and has an alluvial aquifer that might be filled with the water we take from Lake Canton. So we discussed the possibility of a take with the advisory committee. They agreed generally that two things. They would like for us to wait until after the Labor Day to take water. They acknowledged that a take, would be appropriate as soon as we get a flow of water in the river. We believe we're a couple of inches of rain away from being able to get a flow of water in the river that would then help us get a good percentage of the water we'd release from Canton. But the Corps of Engineers is ready to work with us on that. There's rain in the forecast today, of course. There's rain in the forecast on the 23rd and 24th. We asked for both of those dates as potential start times should we get a meaningful rain. The long-term forecast is for dry weather through the end of October. From a water supply standpoint, we can tolerate that. I believe that by the end of October, we would probably be shutting down the Overholser plant and using the Hefner plant alone, but then demands typically that time of year can be met by the Hefner plant alone. There's plenty of water in the lake to sustain water supply. It is impacting recreational uses as it is in many places in the state this year. It's difficult to look at a report that says we had 3 inches of rain last month and it was still the hottest seemingly driest, highest demand period ever, but that was the case. The rain came through the airport, really, and into parts of Oklahoma City on July the 12th. Pretty much all of the substantial rain that we got did not hit the whole city, so demand came back up quickly. We did, I think as we've mentioned already, pump 2 billion gallons more water in July than we did the year before. We pumped 3.5 billion gallons. In order of magnitude, that's 5.7% of the increase. That's a 5.7% increase in the total use against the use that we would forecast for the whole year. So for 1 month, that's a pretty substantial amount. We're always interested in whether we're selling water meters, and this summer we are. Where last year we were low, we're making up for it at about 10% above last year's numbers, which we're pleased about. I was happy to answer other questions. Oh, pardon me, one more thing.
Is the water at Draper increasing or decreasing or holding its own?
It has been decreasing, and right now the demand is down to the point it's holding its own, and it will begin increasing as demand drops. Today we're pumping about 135, 140 million gallons a day. We're bringing in 75 million gallons a day to Draper. We're taking out about 65 million gallons today. So we're making a little progress, not enough to be important there,
But haven't made progress over the last couple of months. We're just to the point where it's starting to build back now.
Yes, that's correct. Demand will drop, and we have a plan to increase the pumpage down the Lake Atoka pipeline this fall as once we have repair kits for the pipeline, so that if we create a leak by pressuring the line up further, we'll be rapidly ready to fix it. It's a complicated technical strategy. The other thing that's going on, the line maintenance breaks and leaks just continued at an enormous rate, and while our staff did a great job of attempting to keep up and attempting to catch up with various different operational schedules, bringing in people and using staff creatively, eventually we just kind of started to drop, and folks were really fatigued as a result, because again, demand in brakes and leak repairs was staying very high at about 5 to 10 times normal rate. Mr. Simandi issued contracts last week to bring in private contractors to help us catch up on brakes and leaks. So that's helping us quite a lot. Those contractors will also be doing restoration work as they go, so that folks won't have to wait to have their driveway, have us come back and repair their driveway or their yard. So we're feeling pretty good about getting rapid repair done and sort of catching up, catching our breath and giving line maintenance a little bit of a normal workload. They're still getting 15 brakes and leaks, brakes reported yesterday, 15, and about 29 leaks reported yesterday, and that's a really good day compared to where we've been. A more normal would be 5 brakes and 10 leaks, to give you an idea.
Were you pleased with the response that we got from our citizens in terms of odd even watering program?
Yes, clearly we want to work on our message so that we can be consistent. It was tough. We were out with, we must have conservation, and it rained really hard. And we really needed the conservation badly. And the only rain of substance made a huge difference for us right at that moment. But it was difficult to say, yes, we need for you, customer, to conserve, even though you know we had this big rain in part of the city. Those kinds of ins and outs, I think, we'll be working in our follow-ups, and we'll talk with you about that in your workshop, about ways we might approach that so citizens feel a little more like we're delivering a consistent message. They're not sort of getting pulled around. But when the chips were down, yes, demand moderated at about, while it had been 202 million gallons a day, it moderated at about 190 for a while, and that was something we could keep up with.
Any further comments on the report?
Will we receive the report?
Okay, I have a motion and a second to receive the report. Voting, please. Report's received. Next item, item 6. First item under the item for individual consideration is ratification of the Water Utilities Trust payments through August 9th.
Will we make the payments?
Second.
Motion and a second to ratify the payments. Questions, comments? Voting, please. Payments are ratified. Next item is the adoption of a resolution concerning the surplus, obsolescence, and surplus of a loader.
Move approval.
Second.
Have a motion and a second to adopt the resolution under item 6B. Comments or questions? Voting, please. Resolution is adopted. Item 6C is a resolution authorizing the general manager to request the municipal councilor to pursue legal action against Parkson Corporation.
Mr. Chairman, trustees, this item was put on at my request. We have been working with the staff at utilities with regard to some problems we're having with some super scrapers at the Draper water treatment plant. Parkson is the subcontractor and the supplier of the super scrapers down at Draper, and Parkson designed, supplied, and installed the system, and it has failed and has continued to be failing. We are in discussions with Parkson looking for a resolution. We had requested that they separate out the contractual issues from the resolution issues, hoping to partner up with them to find a solution, because it's very important to us that our plant operate and operate efficiently. In pursuit of that, we asked them to extend their warranty, which is scheduled to expire in about 9 days, so that we can look at the resolution issues from an engineering perspective rather than from a litigation perspective. Our first request to do that has been turned down. We have renewed that request to them because they also were speaking in terms of separating out the legal issues from the solution issues, the engineering solution. And we're trying to point out to them that's the same thing that we are asking. So we renewed our request to have them extend the warranty so that we can just pursue a partnership. And we're hoping positively for a response from them, but should they not, then we would need to preserve our rights possibly and bring some legal action to preserve any action we may have under breach of warranty. And that is the reason why the resolution is before you today.
Move approval.
A motion and a second. Anybody have further questions of Mr. Keith? Hearing none, voting please. Resolution is adopted. Item 6D, resolution authorizing payment to Hartwig Investments.
So moved.
Second.
Have a motion and a second to approve item 6D. Are there questions or comments? Hearing none, voting please. 6D is approved. Item 6E, approval of a lease agreement between the Water Trust and the city, buying through the police department for
Move
108
approval.
acres at West Elm Creek. Is this their
This is
Pistol Range?
Pistol Range, renewing that agreement.
Move
motion and a
approval.
second to approve the lease concerning the gun range? Are there comments or questions? Voting please. It's approved. Next item on the agenda is a proposal by Mark Swoboda. That's close, right, Mark? Concerning a proposal for a drilling location on the Hefner Reservation. Mr. Swoboda's here. If you'll come forward if you want to talk about it. Could you state your name and address for the record, please?
My name is Mark Svoboda. My address is 1309 Boomer Trail, Edmond, Oklahoma.
Go ahead.
I had proposed, actually I had initial location that I wanted to try to get an oil and gas site on the south side of Lake Hefner. Down on Northwest Expressway, I understand the value of properties on that, and another location was kind of pointed out to me on the south side of the lake, south of the Lake Road. I might point out that the trust has a lot of minerals along there under the Lake Hefner. I did some title work off in section 1, which is off to the east, and they own probably 90% of the minerals. So there's kind of a financial angle to this too. But I went and kind of picked that location. Do we have the map? Do you have the maps and everything up there that you're looking at in my letter and whatnot?
No.
I don't have maps. I've got the letter.
Okay. But there is a map that points out to the tract of land I'm referring to, and and it's called a vacant lot, and you can see from some of the pictures, and I have some maybe a little bit more clear pictures to look at, that it's, it looks like to me that they're using it for some kind of a dump for cement and dirt and whatnot. I would propose to try to use that for an oil and gas location and develop the trust minerals that are under that side of the lake, and try to improve that lot. From the letter that was written to me by Marcia, she first described, some of the things that I proposed in my letter as far as trying to improve the area, and I can talk about that here in just a second. But she went through a number of quotes from the Lake Hefner Development Plan. That may not be the technical name for it, but to try to describe to me what the land was set aside, or the lands around the lake are set aside for. And with reference to this lot, that it's a vacant lot, it has no public access, but, it really looks like to me that it's being used as a dump. A lot of the other descriptions in there, that they're trying to keep the south side of the lake undisturbed due to flora and fauna and make it a buffer zone, an open space, so that it's untouched. And I felt that, in looking at what's existing out there, that it could really be improved quite a bit. I had some pictures of an oil and gas location. Do you mind that I take these up here?
Yeah.
Sure not.
Can we help you?
There's only two different ones. There's two pictures there that are from a site that I'm involved in Midwest City. And one of my proposals was to kind of do some tree planting, maybe a bird habitat, and to help a little bit on this side of the lake, and to take the appearance that this tract has right now and improve it a little bit, at the same time generating some oil and gas income from surface damages, from oil and gas leasing of trust lands, as well as, the final product, which is production from the land. So I guess my point to kind of wanting to propose this, from at least maybe taking the position of the city a little bit, is we have this tract of land that's open. It sits somewhat on a little hill away from the lake road, and is a little bit out of sight, but nonetheless it's used as a garbage dump right now. The pictures that I passed out are from 4 wells that we have. There's 4 pumping units on that pad that are really hard to see because of what we've done with the trees. It's at 10th and Midwest Boulevard. And this is an example of what I've been involved in, and I think we could, do and improve the south side of the lake. Again, develop the minerals, have a financial benefit to the city, to the trust, and I would just like for you to maybe take another consideration of this land. I know that the lake is a sensitive area, and there's a lot of issues. I remember hearing about the Louis by the Lake issues and this and that, and some of the folks that live there. This isn't closely adjacent to really any businesses. This really isn't closely adjacent to many of the houses that sit on the south side, because I know there's some people that have a very active neighborhood development, particularly east of Portland there. But this really wouldn't influence them a whole lot. I think we could help beautify the lot, at the same time develop the oil and gas. In my letter, I throw some pretty big numbers potentially of value to the trust by the mineral development of this, in the orders of $20 million. And that's based on royalty from the trust lands. And
Over what timeline?
What I use is the example of the wells that are on the north side of the lake, of which there's a Aquat well up there, and I think you have some minerals up there. That field to date has produced 10.5 billion cubic feet of gas and 430 some odd thousand barrels of oil. Converted to today's prices, I think I used 90. I'm a little off on that today, and $6 gas. That's pretty close based on the quality of the gas. That's $100 million of gross income. 20% royalty, which I believe is what the trust leases.
Right.
That's $20 million. Now, that's based on them having 100% of the minerals, and in most cases, they have the vast majority. The trust has the vast majority. But that's a significant number, and I'm not coming here trying to say, money is everything, but I think we could kind of work maybe hand in hand here and achieve some of the trust plans for the lake at the same time making it a financial benefit to the lake. If I'm wrong, we drill one well, you probably made $125,000 on Lisa's surface damages and maybe some type of a right-of-way. You're left with a groomed-out location that would probably be somewhat of an improvement to what exists there right now, and maybe you're left with a casing. I don't know if this is even anything that the trust would be interested in, but you're left with a casing over a water aquifer that maybe you could use something for yourself as a benefit down the road. And we would be out of the picture and be gone if it were to be a dry hole.
What's the footprint size of your drilling?
The pad that's on those pictures right there, which is set up for 5 wells, which is we're going to drill one more off of that pad from Midwest City that I showed you, is about 250 feet by 350 feet.
Okay.
And this tract, I know it's tough to really see on the picture here, but this is a fairly large tract of land. And the location would probably, if you were to kind of look at the picture I have here, the picture that was with the letter, would probably consume most of that open area there that's in that picture, the center of the picture.
And how long would you take to drill the well?
It would take approximately 3 weeks to drill a single well. At that point, we'd move in a workover rig, which would probably be between 3 days and 2 weeks, depending on how many zones that you need to test.
Sure.
And to answer your question from a minute ago, how long did it take to make $100 million of gross income on the wells to the north? It's probably been about 15 years, as I remember, since they drilled those wells up there.
So how many potential wells do you see drilling off of that pad?
I see 4 right now. And so it's not just a one-well pad, but it's 4.
And you would complete those 4 wells over 6 months, a year, 18 months?
I would say those 4 wells would probably be completed over, and this is based on finding what we would like to find, would probably be over a 2-year period.
2 year?
Yeah.
And what's it look like after you complete your drilling? What's left?
As far as the surface?
Yeah, what's left to
these pictures-
produce?
Pardon me?
What's your footprint of your producing property
With
there?
4 wells and needing the tank battery for 4 wells, it's probably not going to be reduced much down from that. Like I said, that pad, which has a fence around it, I don't know if you can see it there, is about 250 by 350. And that probably would still, with all the dead men that you need to set for each well to work them over, you would probably keep that same footprint.
Okay.
I can't see reducing it much.
Okay.
The staff recommendation is virtually a foregone conclusion when you look at the rules that surround the use of the park.
I understand.
The reservation there. They don't have any choice but to recommend against it.
Okay.
It would seem to me if we would even, we're going to consider it, we've almost got to open it back up to the people that, I've already had a couple calls today. And I think we've got to open it back up. I hate to dismiss it out of hand based on these rules when we're talking about the potential of this much money. And I mean, money isn't everything, but it's real close.
I understand. I just wanted
And when we
my...
look at it as a public asset that we've got to manage in the best way for all the public, it seems to me we need to...
Yeah, Mr. Chairman, I would be in favor of reconsidering it in whatever's an appropriate mechanism to seek whatever input we need to seek to consider this more completely. I think there's a significant economic impact that could flow to the benefit of the trust at some point. It seems, and again, just from initially hearing it right now, that there's a relatively small impact, but I don't understand the interplay between the rules and regulations and...
Well, I'm not so concerned. I'm more concerned about the stakeholders out there, that we've really had a rocky relationship over the years, and I think we've matured that relationship into a pretty healthy relationship over recent years, particularly when we went through the planning process. And I would suggest that we resurrect the stakeholders group that we had when we put together the master plan and have a meeting with them at that point in time and get the feedback without saying this is what we're proposing, to just say this is a proposal made to us and we want your input in the preliminary stages. To me, that would be a good way to do it, engage from the recreational and the users community as to what the reaction would be to this.
Do you feel how long that process would take?
Do I? No.
I think the Friends of Lake Hafner would be our first
Yeah.
stopping.
And they propose,
seems
at least
to me.
they say they represent all the interests out there, probably not 100%.
But I would guess 60 to 90 days would get us through the process.
Yes.
Now, another question is, if we drive revenue from those wells,
It's not right money.
I understand, but does that money have to be spent at the Lake Hefner Reservation?
At the discretion of the
So we
trust.
could spend it at Draper or Toke or any place we wanted to.
Right.
Yeah.
Yes,
Now, you could restrict it if you'd like to.
Yeah.
I mean, you could choose to do that, but it would be, this body would have the authority to do
Yeah.
that.
If that might be something we might offer to the Lake Hefner, Friends of Lake Hefner, if we want to produce, so that we would commit to half the revenues being spent at Lake Hefner or whatever number happens to make sense.
Well, we shouldn't offer that unless this body agrees to that. I don't know if Mr. White was like spending over that money down in Draper or Zoker or someplace. I don't know if we'd want to, we could commit to maybe spending some of the money out there.
But, Lake Hefner is the reservation is bearing the burden of this facility here. And so it seems like their reward ought to be proportional to the impact of this facility on Lake Hefner.
staff will be happy to go to the Friends of Lake Hafner on this issue. It should not take us a long time. I think, given that it's slightly summer, it may take us a while to get a meeting organized. That group does still meet, is still active. Certainly, an announcement would probably bring out a lot of interested parties to one of their meetings. We're very attracted by the amount of money that, we make $700,000 recreational improvements. That's in sort of a year, and that's, oh my, there are 25 different things,
Right.
$25 million worth of things that are potentially committed. So that is very appealing. I think typically proposals of a commercial nature are something that we open up through an RFP process. I would like your feedback about whether the uniqueness of this sort of, I don't know. I think enough about oil and gas production to know, Mr. Svoboda's brought us a unique idea. Are there likely to be competitors? Are we disadvantaging him for unique technical work that he's provided, or would you be interested in, again, an RFP process if we move along?
Well, I think it's kind of open myself. I think we ought to sit down with the people that we negotiated with this agreement with on terms of the recreational plan first, and then go from there.
Yes, sir.
That's my view. We figure out what the best way to do it if we get through that, whether an RFP or whether, how would we do it?
We may not have to make that
We
decision.
may not even have to do that, right?
And again, I think saying, I don't know, I wouldn't say that this is impossible to do it. I just think that we need to do, I think we owe it to those recreational groups to meet with them. I still believe I have some scars left over from the '89 master plan.
Well,
Well, it's time to break that scar tissue.
There'll be new stars, Jim.
Well, given the amount of money we're talking about, it would seem to me that it would be in everybody's best interest, the potential for everybody
Yeah.
to sit down and talk about it. The
Yeah.
Friends of Lake Hefner could benefit from it, the system as a whole could. I mean,
That's my concern in asking that we at least look at it again in whatever way is appropriate, because I'd hate to reject it out of hand because we've got some road process that we are unable to revisit.
Staff will so do. Madam Secretary, I believe I understand that one action might be to simply deny this,
Reject the rejection.
to reject the rejection.
Either that or you could defer it indefinitely.
Yeah.
until-
I think the deferral would be, I think,
I think so, too.
indefinitely.
Thank you.
Because I would like, part of the message that goes back to the people that we're going to sit down and talk with is that the trust is certainly interested in reaching an accommodation so that we can go forward with this. I think to reject it might send a little bit different message than that, and that's not what I'd like to do. So we have a motion to defer indefinitely this item pending what we've been talking about?
Yes, sir.
And direct staff to go to the, meet with some,
Principal Kepler?
yes.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Have a motion and a second to defer indefinitely.
Thank you.
Voting, please. It's deferred indefinitely. Last item on the agenda is selection of a date and direction to staff to prepare a workshop concerning the overview of the 2011 drought and its long-term effect on the water system.
I'll start, I'll be out of the country from the 6th of September to the 21st of September.
So that takes out the first two. I hate Fridays. How about the 29th of September? I will not be out of the country on Friday.
I will be.
Things I like to do.
I will be.
You'll be out on the 29th?
29th of September, yes.
Two to four? Is that right?
That was our proposal. We're happy to choose other times as you wish. We're also not limited to Thursday and Friday. We're thinking that might be more open for you.
Well, how about an off Tuesday?
About what?
An off Tuesday, when it's not, I mean, we're going to be back to regular council meetings, but the Water Trust and the School Trust only meet every other week, so we do have those off Tuesdays where we wouldn't have a regular Water Trust or School Trust meeting in that Tuesday afternoon.
I like that better.
So you're into the first week of October now.
Are we looking for one?
And in September, that would, yes, that's correct. The first off week would be the 20th of September, and then
28th?
Now, my calendar shows we have a meeting on the 27th of September and one the next week on the 4th. Is that true?
Yeah, we go back
We go back to back?
October.
Why don't we cancel the meeting on the 4th and plug it in and have that special workshop in that slot?
September the 4th?
I'm throwing that out as an option.
October 4th.
October the 4th.
And maybe there is school trust that afternoon, and Mr. Edwards and I both have school trust commitments, but maybe we could go 1 to 3. And if I don't know if there's other meetings in the chambers, Francis, but if there are, we wouldn't have to meet in the chambers. We could meet in the.
Yeah, we don't have to.
Matter of fact, it would be better not to meet in the chambers. It'd be better to meet probably in a conference room or something.
Okay, October 4th from 1 to 3.
I'm throwing it out as a suggestion.
Yeah, that works.
we'll forward that to electronic calendars. That's all right with you. Thank you.
Any other items to come before the trust, the items, comments from staff or trustees or citizens or old business? Or hearing none, we're adjourned.